Okay, so first things first, what is a bone graft and where do you use it? So bone graft is basically just like any other graft. A graft is basically something which is taken from one site and put into another, where the recipient site takes it from the host site. Recipient site is where the graft will be needed, and the host site is where it will be taken from. So in orthopedics, there are a variety of conditions where we can use bone grafts, and a few of them are for helping in healing of fractures, for delayed unions, for non-unions. So all of these are cases where you use it in a delayed fashion, not during the original surgery. Whereas there are also conditions where you use it during the primary surgery itself, such as in the arthrodesis and in spinal fusion, where you can use fresh autograft for the healing of the arthrodesis or for hastening the fusion of these conditions. Apart from that, in cases where there are massive bone defects, those could be either due to trauma or in tumor surgery. Also, we use bone grafts. Now, especially for tumor surgery, we use not just the bone graft, but also the what we call the osteoarticular grafts, which are not just the bone, but also the joint as well. Okay, so these are a few uses where bone grafts can be used. Now, what are the graft properties? So every graft has 4 properties which decide how its utility is going to be. Okay, so among those are osteoconductive matrix. So this is the first property that most grafts have, and that is the osteoconductive matrix. That means that the graft provides a scaffold or a framework for the bone to grow. Okay, so it gives them a blueprint on which the bone can grow. So this is osteoconductive matrix, and most grafts have osteoconductive matrix. Apart from that, we have osteoinductive fractures. So inductive means you have to induce something to form. So that will happen if there are factors such as, say, bone morphogenic proteins or any of the other transforming growth factor or interleukins. All these osteoinductive factors will help in stimulating the bone formation. Okay, so anything that involves stimulating the bone to form from nothing is known as a osteoinductive factors, and these osteoinductive factors are generally there in grafts which are either which are freshly taken autogenously or which are given artificially with osteoinductive factors. Okay, then you have osteogenic cells. Okay, so these are either primitive mesenchymal cells, these could be osteoblasts and osteocytes. So these are the cells which help in bone formation. So these are the osteogenic cells. And lastly, you have the structural integrity. That means it gives them structural support where it's needed. So these type of grafts can be used in, say, in DDH to keep the graft site open, like in a Pemberton osteotomy. We can use it for opening wedge osteotomy, where you're putting in a wedge to keep the structure intact. You can use it for like a fibular allograft or a fibular autograft for bone defects. Also gives structural integrity. So these are a few graft properties which you are supposed to know when you're talking or you're going to describe about bone grafts. So what are the different types of bone grafts? So bone grafts can primarily be autografts. So by autograft, we mean that the graft has been taken from the same individual. Okay, the graft has been taken from the same person. And if the graft has been taken from another individual of the same species, then it becomes an allograft. Okay, so these are the 2 primary types of bone grafts that are used in orthopedic surgery. Apart from that, any graft can also be taken from any other species, and then that would be called a xenograft. Now, xenografts are not used in orthopedic surgery for bone grafts. So we do not have porcine bone or bovine bone, which can be used, or a rat bone, which can be used in human bodies. Okay, so there are multiple reasons. The most important of that is immunogenic potential, which could lead to direct graft rejection and can also lead to other disorders of grafts, such as GVHD, that's graft versus host, or it could lead to immunocompromised state as well. Okay. And apart from this, we have the fourth type of bone graft, which we also call the bone graft substitutes or synthetic types of bone grafts. Okay, so these are the four types of grafts that we have for use in bone. Okay, so now coming to the first, of course, all of us know about autograft, so I'll not talk much about it. It's the same bone which is taken from the same individuals. So the immunogenicity which you are going to have, or antigenicity which you are going to have to the bone, is next to nil because it's the person's own bone. Whereas in allografts, the main thing that takes place when an allograft is being used into the body is a T cell mediated immunogenic reaction. Okay, so these are by the MHC complexes, that's MHC1 and MHC2, major histocompatibility complex 1 and major histocompatibility complex number 2. Okay, so MHC1 and 2, and they lead to a T cell mediated immunogenic reaction. Okay, so now to talk about allografts. Okay, there are different types of allografts. It could be a fresh allograft. A fresh allograft can be taken from, say, a brain dead individual. It would be a fresh allograft. But what are the problems of a fresh allograft? It is very difficult to prevent disease transmission directly because it is the chances of disease transmission, especially hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV, are quite high. And the immunogenic potential is also very, very high. Now, that's because the immunogenic potential which is there in every graft comes from the inner side of the graft, does not come from the hydroxyapatite structure of the bone. It comes from the marrow. Okay, and that marrow will be quite fresh in a freshly taken allograft. Okay, so that is why, because of increased immunogenicity, fresh allografts are not used very commonly. Okay, then we have fresh frozen allografts. Okay, so these are less immunogenic than the fresh ones. The proteins are still preserved, and depending on how hard you want to freeze them, say there are different types of different degrees to which you can freeze a bone graft. So if you are, say, freezing it to say about -70 degrees, then you are going to have this bone graft for about 5 years. Whereas if you are going to use it for a lesser time, say you're freezing it to say -30 or -40, then you're going to use it for only 2 years. So if you want to use it as a rule of thumb, yeah, okay. So as a rule of thumb, if you're using especially for fresh frozen allograft, then it's -20 degrees. If you're freezing it, then you can use it for 2 years, and -70 degrees, you can use it up to 5 years. Okay. They also have immunogenic potential, but it's going to be lesser than what is there in a fresh allograft. Okay. Then you have the freeze dried, which is very similar to a fresh frozen allograft. And lastly, you have the demineralized bone matrix. Now, demineralized bone matrix means there is no mineral involved. Okay. So let me just clear this. So this means demineralized. So what is the mineral form of the bone? The mineral form of the bone is calcium hydroxyapatite. Calcium hydroxyapatite. So this is not present in a demineralized bone matrix. So what else is present apart from inorganic matrix is calcium hydroxyapatite. Apart from that, you have the organic matrix, which is made up of collagen, osteopontin, osteocalcin, all the other non-collagenous proteins, proteoglycans, all of that are the organic parts, and that is what is present in a demineralized bone matrix. So whenever you use a demineralized bone matrix, you get it as a powder. So you mix it with the inorganic part, which is calcium hydroxyapatite. So once you mix both of them, it becomes like a paste and you can use it. Okay. So most of these, demineralized bone matrix are osteoconductive and osteoinductive. Okay, that means they will provide a scaffold for the bone to form, and they will also induce bone morphogenic protein to provide more cells into, or provide more growth factors into the grafted area. Okay.